Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр манай de facto нэвтрүүлгийг Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын нийслэл гадаад харилцааны яамн дээр нь хийж байна. За манай зочноор Зүүн Аз Номхон далайн товчооны Монгол Солонгосын офисыг хариуцсан ноён захирал Seth Бэйли мөн Америкийн нэгдсэн улсаас Монгол Улсад суугаа онц бөгөөд бүрэн ирэхэд элчин сайд ноён Буанgan оролцож байна. Good day.
Ричард Буанган Америк нэгдсэн улсаас Монгол Улсад суугаа элчин сайд. Техас мужийн Остин хотын Сент Эдвард их сургуулийг улс төрийн шинжлэх ухаан, эдийн засгийн бакалаврын зэрэгтээ төгссөн. Франц, Испани, Мандарин хятад хэлээр ярьдаг. Ерөн салам дахь ерөнхий консулын газарт олон нийтэд харилцах хэлтсийн дарга. Бээжин дэх элчин сайдын яамд хэвлэлийн атташе. Парис болон Абиджан хотуудад дипломат ажилланаар ажиллаж байсан. Мөн төрийн департаментын дэлхийн дахины олон нийтэд харилцах асуудал эрхэлсэн товчоонд тослох төрийн нарийн бичгийн даргын орлогчийн үүрэг гүйцэтгэгч. Зүүн Аз Номхон далайн хэрэг хэрэглэх товчоонд туслах төрийн нарийн бичгийн даргын орлогч, мөн төрийн нарийн бичгийн дарга Майкл Помбегогийн гүйцэтгэх тусгаар ажиллаж байв. Дэлхийн дахины олон нийтэд харилцах асуудал эрхэлсэн товчоонд олон улсын хэвлэл мэдээллийн газрын захирал, цахим харилцааны албаны захирал зэрэг бус албан тушаалууд хашиж байсан. Seth Бэйли Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын төрийн департаментын Зүүн Аз Номхон далайн асуудал эрхэлсэн товчоонд Өмнөд Солонгос болон Монгол Улсын хариуцсан захирал. Seth Бэйлийн Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын төрийн департаментын Зүүн Аз Номхон далайн асуудал эрхэлсэн товчоонд Өмнөд Солонгос болон Монгол Улсыг хариуцсан захирлын албан тушаалд 2023 оны 7 дугаар сард томилогдсон. Тэрээр аюулгүй байдлын судалгааны Аз Номхон далайн төвд зочин профессор, ахлах дипломат, бүгд найрамдах хятад дуустах Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын элчин сайдын яам, мөн бүгд найрамдах Солонгос улс, Шри-Ланк, Афганистан зэрэг улсад ажиллаж байжээ. Төрийн департаментт ажиллаж эхлэхээс өмнө Seth эдийн засгийн товчоо, хуулийн асуудал эрхэлсэн товчоонд мөн өмгөөлөгчөөр ажиллаж байжээ.
Thank you very much for being with us. We are now at the visit of the Mongolian Prime Minister to the United States by the invitation of the Vice President Kamala Harris. And within this visit, there was official negotiations between two leaders. And this negotiation and the press release I saw in the White House website, really very comprehensive, and it touched the issues of mutual cooperation, not only today, but the future, and our relationship, partnership is also kind of called in different ways. Let's cover some of these issues. Let's start from you, probably. Let's talk about the importance of that visit at this moment in relations of two countries.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think that we could not be more pleased with the Prime Minister's visit. It's gone extremely well. We're very happy with his engagement with the Vice President Harris. He also is meeting individually with 5 different cabinet level secretaries. It's extremely valuable for him to be able to meet with each of those different agencies and departments. We're especially excited, of course, from the State Department about his upcoming visit with Secretary Blinken tomorrow, and he has a number of other visits, all of which I think are pushing our strategic third neighbor partnership in new and unprecedented ways forward. So we couldn't be more pleased. This is, of course, building on U.S. senior leaders' visits to Mongolia that have happened over the course of the last year, from our Undersecretary for Policy, Toria Nuland, our Undersecretary for Economic Affairs, Jose Fernandez. All of these visits are building our relationship and pushing us to new levels. So we're very pleased with this.
What's your perspective?
Well, we're very proud of the relationship that we've built with Mongolia. I arrived in Mongolia last October, and among my top priorities was to elevate the relationship, to elevate the level of visitors that travel to each other's countries. And we definitely have a lot of success stories to show. With what Seth said about the number of undersecretaries of state, we've had very successful dialogues, economic policy dialogues, annual bilateral consultations here at the State Department and other agencies as well, that really express the depth and breadth of the U.S.-Mongolia relationship. What the Prime Minister said yesterday resonated with many of us, that this is a new chapter of the U.S.-Mongolia relationship. It is a the beginning of the strategic third neighbor partnership, one in which we're doing more to invest in each other's economies, each other's democracies, in each other's people. And there were some very key themes that came up during the meeting with the Vice President that I think really express how important this relationship is to us as the American government, and I think to the American people as well.
Let's go a little bit deeper about the third neighbor concept. This concept becomes, as all we know, it's because we have naturally two neighbors, and the other countries, in particular those with whom we share these values listed by the Vice President yesterday, for example, democracy, human rights, freedom of speech, rule of law. And from that perspective, how do you see that third neighbor policy? Let's start.
Yeah, well, I think that you highlighted the most important aspects of this. We have a shared understanding and shared values, democratic values, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with Mongolia in supporting those values. And it's not just the United States. We have recognized the very important visits from other world leaders who have been to Mongolia recently, including President Macron. We know that the Polish president is coming. The Pope is on his way to Mongolia. So this is a demonstration of Mongolia's growing importance in the world, and the United States is keen to support and foster that.
So, I mean, historically, 30, 40 years ago, Mongolians chose democracy. And they've been on a path ever since that has improved and elevated and developed their democratic transition to be the successful democracy and open market economy that they are today. Our relationship with Mongolia is 36 years old in terms of establishing our diplomatic relationship, but you can point to previous instances where we've exchanged people, we've exchanged ideas, but all of this points to the significance of Mongolia's importance on the global stage. So the third neighbor policy to us has been very beneficial for the world because it helps Mongolia play a meaningful role in global affairs, in the affairs in the Indo-Pacific, but also maintain stable and friendly relations with its neighbors.
When we talk about this third neighbor policy, as Prime Minister said, it is not that easy to be the island of democracy. In that sense, we need to balance our interests with our two natural neighbors and our third neighbors. In that sense, we are in a position not necessarily completely intervening into these two neighbors, whatever they do, on one side. On the other side, there are certain values. For example, we want to have a peace in the world. We suggest that people not fight, instead talk. In that sense, if there is any different or specific understanding here for the peculiar Mongolian positions?
Yeah, I think that we have a clear understanding of Mongolia's position, but also a clear understanding of their commitment. The people, the government have demonstrated a clear commitment to democratic values that we share with them. So they are in, as one would say, a difficult geographic neighborhood, and they of course have two enormous neighbors that surround their country geographically and have managed those relationships. But when it comes to our relationship and the relationship of other third neighbors, we have so much in common, as the ambassador has pointed out, and those commonalities are growing. And this visit by the Prime Minister, I think, is an excellent example and a demonstration of the ways in which we are growing closer together, not just economically, but also in terms of people-to-people relationships and our values-based relationships.
Would you, Ambassador, shortly brief about the roadmap of our cooperation, which is going to be signed by Foreign Minister, Uganda State Department, and from Mongolian side? How you would describe that road?
Yeah. So The economic roadmap, which we're signing later this week, lays out a vision of prosperity for both our countries, for both the United States and Mongolia. We want to see a prosperous and Mongolian economy that plays a global role. A lot of the economic ideas that we've been discussing throughout the Prime Minister's visit here in Washington, D.C., and previously with visits by high-level U.S. government officials, has been about how to support and help develop Mongolia's open market economy so it can be prosperous, it can be transparent, it can be attractive for foreign investment. And these elements, I think, are identified and expressed in the economic roadmap that will help lay out a path of where our two countries can work together to achieve prosperity for both our countries. And a lot of that is based on more investment. A lot of that is based on better capacity building, a commitment to transparency, a commitment to good governance, a commitment to rules-based international order that underpins a stable economic relationship in the Indo-Pacific. So these are things that you'll see in the economic roadmap when it's signed on Friday.
Which way in this roadmap reflected the idea about the challenge we face today of fighting corruption, rule of law, in particular enforcement of laws, including the efficiency of our judicial system? What is there in this roadmap addressing those issues in capacity building of judiciary system?
A lot of it is a continuation of the things that we're doing already. Mongolia certainly has prioritized fighting corruption, and it certainly has had a lot of challenges, and we've said that publicly. We continue to say that behind closed doors. When I meet with officials on the Mongolian side, when U.S. government officials come from Washington, D.C., it is the number one detriment to achieving a more attractive economy where foreign investors can come and know that their money will be invested in confidence. So it's a continuation of the things that we're already doing together bilaterally, but it's also a commitment to continue the path to fight corruption, to realize that corruption and challenges to rule of law and the lack of transparency are things that we see as a journey that Mongolia has to continue to take. And it's made the right choices. Its judiciary is certainly committed to fighting it. Its law enforcement. We've seen a lot of good demonstration points where Mongolia has made that commitment, but it needs to continue that path. It is not finished yet. And I would argue, and as I've made clear to many in my meetings behind closed doors, that every democracy and every country that is committed to good governance has these issues, has these challenges that we have to face. And so that's why it requires not just competent leaders in government, but also competent leaders in civil society, in the business community, that all work together in cooperation, in the spirit of knowing what Mongolia needs to achieve. So we always encourage the Mongolian government to have a healthy dialogue with civil society, to talk with the business community often so they hear their needs, and to find ways where they can implement policy with the input of civil society and the business community.
Another important document also signed is about open skies. Let's talk a bit about that. It is, we know one thing, that open skies made the air transportation competitive in this country, completely to the new level, shifted. And hopefully we do expect the same in that sense. And how you see the future of that open skies, and when we will start to fly in between two countries?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and this is a groundbreaking point in our relationship. And the Open Skies Agreement, as you mentioned, allows us to establish those direct, nonstop flights between the United States and Mongolia that will have a material impact on Mongolia's tourism industry, on their business industry, on the number of students and other travelers who can fly back and forth. So this opens just a number of doors to Mongolia that we think is enormously beneficial. We don't have an exact date on when those flights will actually begin. A lot of that has to do with business considerations between Mongolia's air industry and the U.S. air industry. We're certainly very encouraging of that and hope that it happens as soon as possible, even though we don't know exactly when that will be. But the important thing to focus on is just the kind of groundbreaking nature of this agreement, and it's been a long time coming, so it's wonderful that we're finally here.
Yeah, it was a long dream to fly directly, and direct flights will bring more people to designated countries as it was in practice. And hopefully there will be, first of all, they will probably opt for some hub airport. From two sides they fly wherever they want the passengers to continue. This is one, I think, great concrete some projects that Mongolia are waiting. We have some date around, say, quarter 2 of next year, but probably also it may be shifted depending on the business interests.
Yeah, I don't know an exact date. Like I said, there's still a number of things that have to be worked out in a business-to-business capacity. But I think the more people from the United States who understand the incredible benefits of fly fishing in Mongolia, the better.
Okay. On the other subject, we have been talking about different mega projects. Well, at least we had the 2 mega projects with you, with compact, right? 1, 2. And I understand Mongolia is one of few countries who got 2 compacts. And instead of third compact, I understand there is a new renewable and other sectors. What can you explain? What are the other perspectives?
So for a possible third compact, I can't speculate. I mean, obviously, we're not finished with the second compact. I've seen the construction of the second compact, which is an advanced water treatment facility. It's going to increase the access of clean water in Ulaanbaatar by 70%, 80%, which is enormous. It will do a lot to transform the critical infrastructure of the city and the 1.5 million inhabitants of that enormous city. And we're very much committed to it. It is one of the largest Millennium Challenge compact public works projects in the world that's going on right now at the moment. And we're very committed to ensuring that it's completed within the 5-year time frame. On the third compact, again, I can't speculate, but I know that if Mongolia is willing to have a conversation, we should start obviously early. These things take years to plan out. I was told that the second compact, the initial discussions started back in 2014, 2015. It took years before we were able to even break ground on it. So, but there are a lot of ideas and areas that I think we can focus on. And you just mentioned one. But anything that helps benefit the movement of goods and services and people, ideas, transforming Mongolia's economy into more energy efficient and competitive areas, I think are things that we see success models in other MCC projects around the world.
And I understand such sectors like renewable energies and also space, cooperation in space in terms of research, etc. What are those sectors where we will have more pay?
So renewable energy, we would love to cooperate more and work more together to find ways where we can develop Mongolia's desire for energy diversification, in particular commitment to renewable energy. Right now, as we're all aware, Mongolia uses coal primarily as their energy source, but I think Mongolia also has enormous weather elements that are very attractive to solar and wind and hydro, things that Mongolia is already thinking about, but we could work together, not just with the United States, but with other third neighbors in other countries in the Asia Pacific that can help spur that and help transform Mongolia's energy infrastructure to one where it's more diverse, one it's safer and cleaner for the environment, one that helps maximize and help the economy grow.
You know, on the other side, Mongolia is completely dependent on Russia in terms of energy. Our power stations are Russian technologies, and Russia is now also willing to cooperate with us in terms of energy development. So since I know that you have been saying that you will more focus on energy independence of Mongolia, in that sense, how do you see the participation of also Russia in that energy sector and the other renewable energy? How do you see that in the future?
Well, I can't speak directly about Mongolia-Russia energy cooperation, except that it's in everyone's interest, including Mongolia's, to diversify their energy sources and to diversify the way that their energy comes, in particular green and renewable energy. That is a main area of focus that the Prime Minister and various U.S. government cabinet secretaries will have. I know they talked about it yesterday in his meeting with the Vice President. So that gives us a lot of areas to explore for future cooperation. But it's about diversifying the way Mongolia gets its energy, so it's less dependent on one source.
Yeah, that's the challenge. We, on one side, need to decrease the carbon dioxide by 2030. There is even a certain landmark we have to do. And of course, it's very important to have your technology, your people. And speaking about that, what Mongolia can do more to attract more American foreign investment to Mongolia?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I think it's his commitment to tackling corruption, increasing transparency and the rule of law, finding ways to make the business environment and investment climate more stable and more predictable, so American and foreign investors can come knowing what the rules are and how to properly invest their money and how to follow the rules and laws and regulations of Mongolia, and knowing that they will be protected without any unnecessary or arbitrary impositions that might affect their investment. I think the more Mongolia works on that, we can work on that together, the more American businesses and foreign businesses will come to Mongolia.
Unlike before, this government is really working hard to reveal the corruption cases. The anti-corruption agencies works hard, but all those criminal cases goes to the prosecutor and after supposed to go to court. But that branch of the work is not much working as much we would like to have. So what is your thought on that, how we can do it better?
Well, we're certainly cooperating on judicial issues. We've had an exchange of judges. We've had some U.S. judges that have traveled to Mongolia in the past year to help find ways where they can collaborate and share ideas. We have a tremendous relationship with law enforcement. Our law enforcement agencies here in the United States go to Mongolia to help train and develop their capacity. So there's a lot of ideas and initiatives within the field of law enforcement and judicial where we can continue to explore. And all of this points to better capacity on behalf of Mongolians, on the part of Mongolians, to reform that sector and to continue to transform it so it meets the needs of implementing rule of law and transparency and good governance.
Well, speaking about this law enforcement, as you know, the government has a 5-ish program. It's words in Mongolian words, for example, bird, shovo in Mongolian. And we have, in case we want to have shovos, birds, who is criminally charged, to take it from the U.S., what kind of would be cooperation from your side?
Well, we continue to have those discussions. I know I can say the Mongolians have certainly expressed the need to cooperate more in that regard. And I think that we can certainly have more discussions about legal legal agreements. I think that there's a lot of models around the world that the United States has with other countries where it can help create a more efficient process for those types of inquiries and demands to occur. And I think that those conversations are definitely happening. And I would hope that the Mongolian government find ways where they can accelerate that so we can actually have a more coordinated legal agreement that exists between our two countries, so we can do that more efficiently.
Does it mean that U.S. has a special regulation with a country, maybe bilateral agreement to enforce law enforcement?
Well, I'll give you an example. I mean, it's not special. We have with many countries mutual legal assistance treaties where we agree bilaterally on how we will handle cases like that.
We don't have with Mongolia.
We do not have that with Mongolia.
Yet, and would you have it?
Well, we would certainly be open to talking with the Mongolians if the Mongolians were interested in it.
Okay. On more brighter topics, Mongolia had adopted the law of English to be taught as a foreign language at the secondary education, which we have gone through a lot of discussions, but we find very important to have Mongolians speaking fluently and being a part of that global community. In that sense, I understand there is some teachers' cooperation issues. What are those issues?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. I mean, we are very committed to helping Mongolia increase the number of resources available to teach and learn English. The State Department, for example, has an English teaching assistance program that we're committed to increasing by 50%.
More teachers coming.
More teachers coming, and more announcements coming as well. So I think that this is an area that the Vice President and the Prime Minister talked about yesterday as well. They both highlighted the value of this. It pays dividends throughout the relationship, whether it be on a people-to-people level or business-to-business level, government-to-government. This is something that we can continue to build our strong foundation on.
Since you are responsible for Mongolia and Korea, what are the concept of having trilateral dialogue between U.S., Korea, and Mongolia? What is behind, and what is the difference compared with another trilateral with Japan?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's an area that we've begun to explore, but isn't fully explored yet. So there's a lot of room for us to make progress on this. I know, for example, Undersecretary Fernandez, when he went to Mongolia in June, went there with his Korean counterpart, and they had trilateral meetings to explore some of the business opportunities that are available to Mongolia through collaboration with both the United States and South Korea. So, that's kind of the beginning of the conversation. There's a lot more that we can and need to do.
Is that a similar experience you have with other countries having trilateral kind of cooperation?
Yeah, trilateral and multilateral cooperation. So it's not always just trilateral, but of course, we have a well-established and growing trilateral relationship between the United States, Korea, and Japan. There are other organizations like the Quad that involves Japan and India, the United States, and Australia. And all of these organizations are designed to knit countries in the Indo-Pacific closer together, to help them build each other up, to build on their common values, to build on their common economic interest. And I think that is demonstrating a tremendous amount of progress, especially over the course of the last 2 years. And so we're very enthusiastic about this.
This rare minerals, an issue we have repeatedly coming to the surface recently, in particular in trade relations between China and the U.S., etc. And what is the perspective of Mongolia in that sense?
Yeah, well, it's clear that Mongolia doesn't lack resources, it doesn't lack know-how or they have all of the tools available to them, and with the things that the ambassador has highlighted about rule of law and anti-corruption, and that will do a tremendous amount to attract U.S. and other foreign investment. And no area is perhaps has more promise than in the rare earth minerals category of business opportunities. And so, this is an area where the United States is focused on helping Mongolia develop this sector. It's not just for U.S. benefit. I think that it will benefit Mongolia's relationship with Korea, Mongolia's relationship with Japan, and globally around the world. So we do have these agreements between the United States and Mongolia to help develop this sector, but those agreements are not exclusive to Mongolia and the United States. Instead, they have broader global impact.
Okay, our final topic I would like to raise is about the peacekeeping capacity strengthening in Mongolia. In that sense, I understand certain development is going on. Would you update?
Sure. Well, I mean, one thing that the Vice President made very clear, and it was at the top of her list, is that we recognize Mongolia as a leader in global peacekeeping. They play an outsized role in sending peacekeepers around the world to troubled spots to not only play a part in it, but also lead in many missions. And we're very proud of that relationship. We talked extensively yesterday in our meeting with the Vice President about the United States and Mongolia standing shoulder to shoulder in places like Afghanistan. The Vice President noted that Mongolia was one of the last countries to leave Afghanistan with the United States when we left last year, 2 years ago. So Mongolia certainly has the commitment. We want to help explore and develop its peacekeeping capability, its ability to respond to disaster humanitarian issues around the world. Mongolia's armed forces is very impressive and has created a professional ability for it to respond to these global issues. And when the Prime Minister talks with other cabinet secretaries, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, Mongolia's peacekeeping force will definitely come up to find ways where they can contribute to other troubled spots around the world.
Well, definitely there are so many topics we can elaborate a lot, but however, in text of current visit, we highlighted several issues that our audience is interested in. I would like to thank you, gentlemen, for your time in this interview. We will work hard to get all this done. What we have talked is done, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. За хүн үзэгчдээ өнөөдөр манай de facto нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Америкийн нэгдсэн улсын гадаад харилцааны яам State Department гэдэг энд Зүүн Аз Номхон далайн товчоо гэж би энэ товчооны Монгол Солонгосыг хариуцсан захирал ноён Бэйли аман элчин сайд Буанганаар оролцлоо. Баярлалаа.